Hi, it's the Intrepid Eater. I was out hiking today and I just came across one of the few things you can forage in the kind of harsh Ontario winters out here, and that is shagbark hickory. So shagbark hickory is obviously a hickory tree, and it has this shaggy bark that just kind of comes off of the tree. Luckily, we're actually beside another tree that is somewhat similar. The only thing you probably accidentally misidentified the shagbark with, it is the ironwood tree that has these little shaggy bits as well. But you can see the difference here from here. The shagbark has large kind of hunks of bark sloughing off. Now what this bark can be used for is actually to make a really tasty syrup. And it's not syrup in the traditional sense like maple syrup, where you actually tap a hole in the tree and drain out the sap that's running in and boil it down. What you do here is you actually harvest the bark and roast it and then boil the bark down into a syrup. And it just creates this nice, tasty, very unique flavor, and that you can get it in the winter. So to harvest it, what you want to do is first, if it's not icy and snowy, you want to look on the ground, because often there's going to be pieces of bark that have fallen off the tree already, and that's the most sustainable way to harvest this stuff. You don't want to take too much off the tree. Considering that it's all hard and icy here, we're gonna have to do it another way, and that way is to find the pieces that are all the way off the tree already, and then to break small pieces off of those. So like you see, I'll just break a small piece here. We want to look around, look out for other shagbarks in the area, and take a little bit of each. Make sure you're not tearing any of this bark off. You don't want to damage the tree at all. You're just going to look for the pieces that are already not touching the tree at all. Break a couple of them off. Try not to make too much of a splash here. And then we're going to look around for some others, and we're just going to harvest a couple handfuls of it. Like I said, the best way to do it is to harvest off the ground if you find it in the fall or summer. So I'm going to look around for a couple more shagbarks, and then head back to my kitchen after some more hiking, and we'll get to boiling down for syrup. Okay, we're back in the kitchen with our hickory bark. We have about a pound of it here, which is perfect for the amount of syrup we're going to be making. And first things first, we want to wash the bark off. Some of the bark may have lichen on it, which will give the syrup a bitter flavor. You want to get rid of that. You want to get rid of any spider webs, dust, cocoons, any insects that may be hiding in the nooks and crannies. So what you're going to do is going to rinse under cold water and just give everything a scrub with a scrub brush. You don't want to use soap, but give everything a good scrub, and then we're going to roast it and then boil it down in syrup. Okay, so I have the hickory bark all scrubbed down. I've removed all the lichen, which is just the kind of the green parts on it. I have the oven set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything's set on a sheet pan here. I'll just make sure everything's kind of separated. And then that's going to go in the oven for about 30 minutes. You're just going to keep an eye on it to make sure that it doesn't burn. You'll start to smell a nice spicy, smoky flavor coming out of it eventually. After 30 minutes, we'll come back and take it out of the oven. So the hickory bark has been in the oven for 30 minutes now, so I'm going to take it out. It's smelling really nice, like really roasty and spicy, and it's a really unique aroma. It's very cool. So what I'm going to do now is going to put it into a pot. Be careful not to burn myself. I'm going to throw it all into a pot, and I'm going to cover that with water. So I've added all my hickory bark into the pot. I've covered it with water, a couple inches, and I'm going to bring it to a boil. Once it gets to a boil, I'll reduce it to a simmer, and then I'm going to simmer it for about half an hour or more. If you see that it's running out of liquid, you can add a little more water to it, but we want it simmering nicely for about half an hour. Okay, so our roasted hickory bark has been boiling for about 40 minutes or so. You can do about 30 to 40 minutes. What I'm going to do from here is take a strainer and strain it out into this bowl. You want to use a strainer because there's going to be some sediment that comes out from the bark. If you want to be extra careful, you can actually use a coffee filter to completely strain it. I think mine will be okay here. I do have a little bit of sediment there. You can either dispose of the bark or you can use it to smoke meat. You can throw it right in the grill and use it to smoke whatever meat you're grilling. And you could even make the hickory syrup, glaze the meat with it, and then smoke with the hickory chips, which would be quite delicious. So from here we have our bowl of hickory sap, or just hickory tea. You can actually drink it like this if you'd like. You could sweeten it with a little bit of honey and drink it as a tea, but we're making syrup out of it. So the next step is going to be measuring how much liquid we have and adding the exact same amount of sugar in order to create our syrup. So let's see how much of the liquid we ended up with. I have 2 of the same measuring cups here. Should make it easy to tell. So I have about 400 milliliters of liquid. I'm going to do the same amount of sugar, if I have enough here. There we go. It's approximately the same, a little under. I'll save some for my coffee tomorrow. You can also use corn syrup for this, and the reason why you might want to use corn syrup is sugar is likely to crystallize in the fridge when you're storing. Much like honey sometimes does, it will just become kind of crystally. All you have to do is gently warm it up in the microwave or in a warm pot of water and the crystals will go away. If you use corn syrup, that won't happen, but I'm using white sugar today. Okay, so I have my sugar and my liquid, and I'm putting them back into the pot. I'm going to whisk them in very well, so it's very well combined. And from there I'm going to simmer it and reduce it until it turns into a nice thick syrup. It is completely to your taste, like how much you want to boil it down. I would say you should probably do at least a quarter or a third. But if you like a light syrup that's nice and runny, you can cook it shorter. And if you like a nice dark syrup that's really thick, just cook it longer. I'll probably keep at that for a while. You may have noticed there's a lot of sugar in this recipe. It is a sugary syrup, and you do need a lot of sugar to thicken this and make it into that syrup consistency that we all like. But you can play around the recipe and add less sugar, different types of natural sugar if you'd like. Cane sugar, agave nectar, any of these things. Make sure you don't use things that might alter the taste of the syrup itself. Say if you use honey, it's more likely going to taste like honey than hickory syrup, and you want that nice clean hickory flavor. So yeah, you can experiment. It's not an exact recipe, but you do want enough sugar in order to make it into an actual syrup and for it to thicken. So I'm just going to cook this down for a while and keep whisking away, and we'll see what it looks like at the end. So our syrup is looking beautiful. It's reduced by about half, which is where I wanted it. It's golden, it smells delicious. I tasted some and it tastes really sweet, unique, hickory, kind of smoky and a little spicy. It's really, really nice. Remember, if you're tasting, to let the liquid completely cool down, because sugar boils very hot and you don't want to burn your tongue, which I've done in the past. I'm going to transfer it into a clean jar and we'll take a look at the clarity of it. And there we have it. I have my jar of hickory syrup here. It's beautiful. It's a dark golden color. You could definitely make it a little lighter, even a little darker if you want. This recipe is in no way strict at all. You could roast the hickory bark longer to make it smokier and more flavorful. You could do it lighter. It's really up to you. You could add flavors. From here, you could, if you have full jars, you could seal them by putting them in a water bath for 10 minutes, like your normal preservation technique. But I know I'm going to go through this relatively quick, and it will last for months in the fridge like this, so I'm not too worried about it. In terms of usage, you can use this syrup in a lot of different places. I think anywhere you use maple syrup, you can use it in barbecue sauce, pancakes or waffles. You can drizzle it over fried chicken or fried pheasant or quail, rabbit even. You can put it on ice cream. You could mix it into a cocktail. You could do so many things with it. I know I'll be making some barbecue sauce with it and turning it into a glaze and using that leftover bark to smoke probably some pork, maybe some venison. It's a beautiful product. It's super unique. It's very terroir. It's very, very cool, and I recommend you make it. It's super easy and super sustainable. It's a lot easier than boiling down vats of maple syrup. So it's a great little project for the weekend. So I hope you try it out, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments what you end up doing with it. And if you're hungry for more, remember to follow me on Facebook and Twitter as Intrepid Eater. I hope to see you next time.